So this is a 2005 Pontiac Pacifica all-wheel drive. The only real thing that was wrong with it was this bit of bodywork here, which doesn't seem too deep. So I was planning to just touch up the paint for now. Got it for a good price. But the subframe is rusted out on it on the front, which is a fairly common problem. You might be looking at this video for the same reason. So the crossbar underneath is rusted right out, right in here. And it's actually a fairly big job to take it apart. So wheels off, jack the car up very securely, right? And there's a couple of bolts holding the power steering on. You do have to tie the power steering up so that it comes off of the frame or stays with the engine. And before you take all the major bolts out that are underneath the frame, there's about 7 of them. You have to get the clips off of all of the brake fluid lines mainly. I have an adjustable jack on wheels like that, motorcycle jack, to hold up the frame because it has to be fished out and either remove this torsion bar or fish it around the brake lines, which is what I'm trying to do. And you need to hold up the motor so the whole engine doesn't just fall on you. And I've chosen to use some ratchet straps. There's a motor mount right here on the front beside the air cleaner. And go around that with blocks and a 4x4. It's heavy. I'm bending this 4x4. Of course, battery's off. Around the exhaust system down there seems to work to carry it. And basically we just need a couple of points to hold this thing up. And so it's going around the back of this too. So make sure you've got it stabilized so it doesn't rock forward and backwards. And down in there, one of the toughest things was to get the power steering off. In order to get to the power steering, it was so hard to do. We had to use enough wrenches to go almost the full length of this 4x4. So it would have been 3.5 feet of wrench extensions down in through here. And I needed a pipe on a huge ratchet just to get that bolt out. And I had to have a friend helping me to do it. So again, on this side, we have brake lines to take off, the bolts from the lower A-arms. You want to tie them up so they don't fall down. You got to get this torsion bar around the brake line, which is a little bit flexible. I hope it's going to work. Keep everything else intact. And there's a front motor mount here. Comes off by removing the bolt underneath here. So you don't have to take that off the engine. Just take the bolt out of the frame. And then this has got to be let down, taken outside. I'll show you what the subframe looks like. They don't make these things, so you're going to have to go to a wrecker to get the parts. What I ended up doing was I found a couple in a nearby city in Calgary at a wrecker, and somebody there actually was willing to, for a couple $100, to take the subframe out. So here it is. And I've cleaned it and painted it. It was in pretty good shape anyhow. Torsion bar is still attached, is why I'm trying to leave it on there. If you are taking the torsion bar off, these are slotted. So you only have to remove one and move it. But it's really hard to get at, right? And one of them's underneath this cover. So that's why this one got torn apart. And this is the power steering bolt that was really hard to get out. And another one. So one on each side for the power steering. Right? And clean it all up. I ended up having to buy, or deciding to buy, the engine with the frame and all of its parts, because in the situation at the wreckers, the engine had to come out. There wasn't a way to really support the motor. And so what I did was, instead of a $95 part, which is that in Canadian dollars, I ended up spending almost $1,000, got the engine and all of these components, the whole front end, because I had new disc brakes and good CV shafts, and I believe it was still good air conditioning, motor mounts, alternator, all that stuff. And then I ended up taking the engine back and got credit. So I really have a $650 credit at the wreckers, plus all these parts, which is not a bad deal, but it's been days working on this thing. So treat it as a big job, and if the rest of the vehicle is worth it, great. But don't take it lightly, and you're going to need a lot of tools, impactors, and some huge wrenches just to get leverage, and pipes. And seems to be a bit of a combination of metric and English sockets, anywhere from 12 millimeters up to 20, 19s, 18s, and 20s, mostly metric. Hope it goes well for you.